Hey guys, I'm on my way to the British Museum and I'm taking y'all with me, so hang on for the ride. Before we get there, I'm going to tell you a few things about the museum. It was established in 1753 and has grown to house one of the largest collections of international artifacts in the world. It's one of the most popular, widely traveled to museums in the world due to the collections. Its exhibits span centuries and civilizations in an attempt to explain and document human history, art, and culture. So when we get there, I'll tell you more about how the British Museum does this in the Roman Britain Room, a room dedicated to the Roman imperialist effort in ancient Britain from 43 to 410 CE. Okay, so we're here at the museum and we're headed to room 49. Walking through the other exhibits, they seem very coherent with series of display cases throughout the rooms. This exhibit, however, seems to be split up into two parts. When we first walk into the room, we see in the middle lots of display cases, like in all the other rooms. Then, lining the walls, there's quite a few stone sculptures. The display cases present soldier uniforms, blacksmith tools, and other aspects of society which the Romans influenced. There isn't an overt order to the displays, although some of the related ones are clustered together. There are some displays that speak on buildings, and how they changed the way society carried itself, but it also reflects how the art of buildings was affected, creating a bridge between social and cultural changes in Roman Britain. The art on the walls blatantly show the cultural impact the Romans had on British ideas like beauty and death. When we're looking at the cultural pieces within the exhibit, we can also note a difference between the beginning of the exhibit and the end. When we first enter, many of the pieces are smaller, incomplete, or fragmented artifacts. As we travel through the room, we come to larger pieces. It's a way for the exhibit to build anticipation. At the end of the room, we come to the tomb of Gaius Julius Alpinus Classicianus. Looking at the tomb, there are distinct pieces which look darker, worn, older, and others which look light and clean. This indicates the darker pieces are the old fragments which have been connected to reconstructed pieces in order to replicate what the tomb would have looked like during the 1st century when it was created. So although visitors at first see the series of incomplete artifacts, the exhibit leaves a final impression on the grandeur of Roman Britain culture. The separation of the display cases from the sculptures is reminiscent to me of furniture and decorations in a house, meaning the display cases are more everyday used items, while the sculptures are more of ornamental or special objects. Like the blacksmith tools were something used on a regular basis, while the tombs were for special cases of death. By making this analogy, I'm not trying to insinuate that either of the two parts of the exhibit are better or worse than the other, just different. Different in that the display cases focus more on the social changes imposed on ancient Britain, while the sculptures are examples of cultural changes. So, the room is in effect split into the society and culture of Roman Britain. It's an important distinction to make when we observe the way people walk around the room. I guess it's something you see at just about every museum, but people aren't really all that interested in seeing everything in the room. At first glance, most of the people walking through the room don't really care to see the artifacts on display. They simply walk straight down the aisle from one side of the room to the other, with the occasional interest in one of the displays. I wouldn't say that's a failing of the museum and how they designed the exhibit, just people not actually caring about details. At the same time, when we're walking through the exhibit, we can see that some people are interested. When we look further, we start to notice that people are interested in what's on the walls. The pretty stuff, like the jewelry or the paintings, or even the statuettes. I think it's actually kind of smart. The exhibit is set up for people to walk down the middle and become interested in the things on the walls. Well, to get to the things on the walls, people have to pass by all the display cases, kind of get sucked into what the exhibit has to say about what happened to society while the Romans inhabited Britain. So since people naturally just want to look at the things they find beautiful, rather than learning about history, the exhibit curators are kind of forcing visitors to go against that. They are working with people's natural instincts and placing the display cases like obstacles in the way of the visitors' destinations. That way people are engaging in both the social and cultural history of the Roman Britain era. People still aren't taking photos of all the display cases like they are all the art in the walls, but at least they're interacting with the displays. So although people don't really want a history lesson when they're walking through the exhibit, rather an opportunity to look at the pretty stuff, They're subconsciously forced to become interested in something they wouldn't normally be.